Our solar system. To the ordinary citizen, it may seem like we have learned just about all there is to know about the sun and the planets which revolve around it. However, to the astronomer, this is not the case. Astronomers and astrophysicists are still busy as ever observing movements, calculating trajectories, and trying to piece together the mystery of our solar system, and what makes it so special that it was able to spawn the only known life in the universe. It was only relatively recently that Pluto, our formerly ninth planet from the Sun, was discovered. Then, even more recently, based on its orbit and size, Pluto was recategorized from a true planet to a dwarf planet. This reduced the amount of planets in our solar system to 8. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Pluto was discovered in the 1930s, and though this wasn't known at the time, it was merely the first body in the Kuiper Belt ever to be discovered by astronomers. The Kuiper Belt is a belt of objects similar to the asteroid belt, but up to 200 times more massive and farther away from the Sun, and objects the size of Pluto are fairly common in that region of the solar system. Thereby, though it makes sense that those who discovered Pluto would want to crown it a new planet, it simply never was. The solar system only has 8 planets. Or does it? Recently, but also in more distant times, there has been speculation as to whether our official tally of the planets in the solar system is correct. In more recent years, this speculation was brought forth because of data. Something in our calculations concerning the movements of the solar system was off, which leads us to consider the possibility of another planet or celestial body. However, in ancient times, there was speculation of another planet in the solar system for a very different, seemingly more tangible and ominous reason. Sitchin is well known for some of his later, more out there and discredited theories, but he also did a lot of valuable work concerning the ancient Sumerians and translation of ancient Sumerian cylinder seals. His translations of the seals suggested that the ancient Sumerians had documented a cataclysm, one that was caused, in Sitchin's opinion, by another planet in our solar system. According to Sitchin, this planet was called Nibiru, and passed very nearby to Earth at the beginning of human history. One interpretation of cylinder seals suggests that one of the moons of Nibiru collided with the Earth, causing a cataclysm that helped to shape ancient human history. Such an impact, at the most modest estimates, would have been absolutely devastating to ancient humans. Combine a lack of protection from the fallout of such an event with the raw fear of not understanding what was happening, and it will come as no surprise to you as to why this story has lasted potentially thousands of years. Sumerians were notorious stargazers, and often depicted constellations in their art. It would not be outside the realm of possibility for them to have documented some such astronomical impact, especially if it had as much influence over the way ancient humans lived as it is suggested. It is entirely possible that the Sumerians were talking about a different kind of astronomical impact entirely, fragments of a collapsed comet that routinely strike the Earth. That, however, is a story for another time. If Nibiru was indeed a planet, and it passed close enough to Earth to cause the devastation that the Sumerians catalogued, it would have been a sight forever burned into the minds of those ancient humans who witnessed it. One can only imagine the fear that these people must have felt. Another planet, growing closer and closer in the sky, one of its moons striking the Earth and throwing the normal order of life into chaos. Some modern humans not only believe the story of Nibiru to be real, but also claim to have extrapolated that Nibiru is coming back and will collide with the Earth upon its return. Depending on who you ask, the story of Nibiru can get even more complicated and far-fetched. Some believe, as they always do, that ancient aliens were involved. Sitchin himself eventually began to promote the idea that Nibiru was actually inhabited by extraterrestrials, which came to the Earth and enslaved early humans. As fantastically interesting as this sounds, there is no hard evidence whatsoever to support these claims, and Sitchin's hypotheses are discredited by the archaeological and astronomical communities. Sitchin did actually do a lot of great work concerning the ancient Sumerians. Unfortunately, it would seem that his more ridiculous theories got him far more attention and probably finances. Doomsday prophecies and ancient aliens aside, the myth of Nibiru is truly fascinating. The idea that there is another planet beyond Neptune possibly creating chaos and cataclysm on Earth speaks to our sense of wonder, and it reminds us that not only are we insignificant, but we don't know everything that there is to know about our own solar system, let alone the universe. Since the discovery of Uranus, the first planet to be discovered via telescope, and Neptune, the first planet that cannot be seen without a telescope, astronomers have theorized about more planets in our solar system. In fact, Neptune was only discovered because astronomers observed that the position of Uranus was not consistent with Newtonian gravity, and thus they began looking for the then theoretical 8th planet from the Sun, which could account for the errors in their data. Before Pluto was discovered and mistakenly identified as the 9th planet in the solar system, many astronomers insisted that there was another planet beyond Neptune. Though they didn't truly have a reason at the time to believe that there was a 9th planet, this did not stop their searching. This could be attributed to a planetary gold rush type of mentality, as many astronomers believed that they would be the next to discover a new planet and have their names solidified in the field of astronomy. Many of these hopefuls referred to this hypothetical extra planet as Planet X. Over the years, these two stories seem to have been warped into one. This is the nature of speculation and imagination. Nibiru was born from ancient stories, most likely passed down from an even earlier history, of a cataclysm that devastated ancient humans. Planet X was the product of curiosity and opportunism. The discovery of Neptune had given astronomers hope of maybe finding their own new planet, and reaping the ensuing social and academic benefits. However, neither of these ideas were pursued out of true necessity. That is to say, Planet X and Nibiru were not hypothesized in order to fill existing gaps in data. However, more recently in history, there have indeed been hypothesized extra, unknown planets hiding in the far reaches of our solar system. Planets that were predicted by the data, rather than imagined. In 1985, Daniel Whitmire proposed the hypothesis of a nemesis star to our Sun, whose interactions with the Oort cloud could have explained periodic mass extinctions on Earth. There was never any evidence found to support the nemesis star theory, but in 2015, Whitmire revised his theory. He no longer proposed a nemesis star, but instead he proposed that the Earth had a nemesis planet, called Tyche. Tyche would have been a gas giant, roughly 4 times the mass of Jupiter. According to revisions made in 2015, it is stated that if the nemesis planet had an orbital range of around 100 astronomical units, and its orbital precession was slower than its orbital period, such an orbit would mean that it would interact with the Kuiper Belt roughly every 27 million years, and could have hurtled comets into the inner solar system. This timeline, though hypothetical, coincides with several mass extinctions, including the most famous of all, the mass extinction of the dinosaurs. And Planet Tyche is not alone. There is another hypothetical planet that was proposed in order to explain certain astronomical phenomena. In 2014, astronomers Scott Shepard and Chad Trujillo were observing a group of objects in the very distant solar system beyond the Kuiper Belt in an area called the Scattered Disk region. These objects are called trans-Neptunian objects, or TNOs, and they orbit the Sun at a distance beginning around 30 astronomical units. These objects are common. However, astronomers observed something strange when they mapped the orbits of 6 specific TNOs in this region. They noticed that there was a consistent anomaly in the orbital distribution of these objects. These TNOs all had extremely similar orbits that were perpendicular to those of the inner planets of the solar system, with seemingly no justifiable reason. It was as if they were being or had been affected by a previously unknown object in our solar system. In order to try to make sense of these findings, Shepard and Trujillo began work on what is now called the Planet 9 hypothesis. After some calculation, they now believed that indeed there was a 9th planet in the solar system. However, this object would have had to have been much larger than Pluto. By calculation, they determined that in order to drag these TNOs into such a strange orbit, this hypothetical planet would have had to have been 10 times the size of the Earth. This object would have a very long orbital period of approximately 15,000 years, which could definitely be an explanation as to why this planet has eluded modern astronomy. Most importantly, however, Planet 9 could be the reason for the uniformly anomalous orbits of the 6 TNOs in perpendicular orbit with the inner planets. Though the Planet 9 and Nemesis Planet Tyche hypotheses sound similar, they are distinctly different and explain different things. However, the similarity does seem to suggest that large, unseen forces could in fact be at work in our solar system. It actually does seem to make a tremendous deal of sense, especially considering the fact that both of these theories were proposed in order to explain anomalies in our solar system. As is evidenced by the discovery of Neptune, Some of the greatest astronomical discoveries are predicted by anomalous data. The ancient Sumerians created myths about another planet which collided or nearly collided with the Earth, steering the course of human civilization. The Planet 9 hypothesis states that the orbit of several trans-Neptunian objects suggests that they were dragged through the inner solar system by a solid planet 10 times the size of the Earth. The Planet Tyche hypothesis suggests that another large planetary body is also sending Kuiper Belt objects into the inner solar system. These stories, hypotheses, and ideas are often confused for one another and intermingled, and through publicly shared misinformation they can cause hysteria and lead people to believe some very ridiculous things, such as the idea that spread like wildfire in early 2016 that Nibiru had been found and was going to strike the Earth in that April. And yet somehow, we were unable to see a large planet that was supposedly destined to collide with the Earth in just a few months' time. However, is it possible that these theories and hypotheses could in fact be intertwined in a way that doesn't quite claim to predict the fiery end of the Earth? Could it be that what the ancient Sumerians called Nibiru was actually Planet 9, and that what struck the Earth was actually one of the Kuiper Belt objects that the giant planet had brought into the inner solar system? Could the various mass extinctions and cataclysmic events that have occurred on Earth throughout the millennia have been caused by Planet 9, and the Earth's nemesis planet Tyche disturbing the outer reaches of the solar system? Unfortunately, much more research is needed in order to come to a solid conclusion. Fortunately, however, the research is actually getting done. This is another benefit to predicting objects based on data versus proposing them based on curiosity alone. Though direct evidence of Planet 9 or Planet Tyche is scarce, astronomers continue to analyze the circumstantial evidence that suggests their presence. Perhaps one day soon, as they calculate and hypothesize, some new revelation will direct their lenses to the proper coordinates in the sky, revealing to them our most distant planetary neighbors. Or, perhaps one day, one of those neighbors will once again assume the role of nemesis to the planet Earth, assailing humanity with a rain of fire and stone, threatening to subject our wonders of society and technology to the same fate as that of the dinosaurs. Thank you for watching and listening.